What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I'm Mike Tagliere here with you for another Sunday. It's week 15, guys. It's the fantasy playoffs. We already have 3 games in the bag. What you guys don't know, a little behind the scenes thing, is this is the first time I'm talking. Like, legitimately the first time words are coming out of my mouth all day. I didn't even say hi to my wife or kid. Basically, I gave him a hug, and I just came downstairs to start recording. So trying to salvage the voice, because for the next hour, I'm going to be answering the questions for you guys, as many as I possibly can. As we typically do at the start of these shows, I'm going to run through the injuries that you need to know about in case that you were, sleeping throughout the week. Maybe you had other things going on. I don't really know, but what I do know is that I always cover the injuries for you guys. So Julio Jones out for this game. He reportedly wants to try and make it back this year. I don't know if that's going to happen, but so don't drop him just yet off your rosters, but he's not playing this week. So Russell Gage gets a nice bump. I think Hayden Hurst actually gets a bump down in the rankings. He's been worse with Julio out of the lineup. Antonio Gibson not going to play today. He's someone that I would be surprised if he played next week. They ruled him doubtful early in the week. It just seems like that turf toe injury is going to last a couple weeks, so prepare to be without him. Michael Thomas was placed on IR, so if you're in a redraft league, Michael Thomas is droppable. He is not going to be playing in the final 3 regular season games for the New Orleans Saints, so it sucks. He's one of the biggest fantasy busts of the year, but it is what it is at this point, right? Kenny Golladay, another one. I think you could drop Kenny Golladay. I don't see him coming back. He has not practiced, and I think it's like 2 months now, basically. So I don't know why they don't just shut him down. You can drop him if you want to. Damian Harris was ruled out yesterday. That was pretty big news. So Sony Michel is someone that is now starter viable against that Miami Dolphins defense. And if you look at Sony Michel, what he's done against Miami, even going back to last year, he has played pretty well against them. With Rex Burkhead out, James White is not somebody that's going to get a whole lot of carries. So I would anticipate, Sony Michel racking up 15 plus carries in this game. So I do think that he is RB3 viable. I'm sure there's going to be some questions about him. Deebo Samuel not going to play. Brandon Ayuk, he's a must play. If you've got Brandon Ayuk, you have him in your lineup. Duke Johnson also out for this game, which means David Johnson's going to see the full workload. But the question is, what's the role going to be in the receiving game? Because that's really important against the Colts. I'm sure I'm going to have some questions about him as we go through it. Those that are highly questionable, Ezekiel Elliott, he's expected to play, but not 100%. He didn't practice throughout the week, but Mike McCarthy said he expects him to play. It's a tough matchup against San Francisco. I have Zeke as like a very back-end RB2, high-end RB3 this week, so I don't think he's someone that you have to play, but just understand that he might not be 100% for this game. There is some risk involved with him. James Conner is expected to play, but he's just really been struggling. That Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is not getting much push up front, so be careful with him. I have him in that high-end RB3 territory at RB26 right now. Not a huge fan of him this week. Ronald Jones still on the COVID list. I haven't seen anything pop up, so I'm assuming that Ronald Jones is out for this week, so that Leonard Fournette is going to be the starter. He's going to play. Leonard Fournette is my RB27, right there with James Conner. So if you're torn between those guys, I feel really torn about it, because Atlanta is the best run defense on the ground. Believe it or not, they've allowed the fewest fantasy points in the NFL on the ground to running backs. So unless the Tampa Bay Bucks decide to go back to Leonard Fournette through the air, which they might have to do it a little bit, obviously it's going to be a tough spot for Fournette, but at the same time, he is a viable running back that's probably going to get 15 plus touches in that game. Let's see. Devontae Parker expected to play. Not a good matchup for him against New England. If you don't have to play Devontae Parker, I don't think you should. Evan Ingram is expected to play. We'll see. He was dealing with a calf injury that popped up kind of midweek, so he's someone that might be less than 100%, could pop back up. He has Colt McCoy under center, so it's not really... I don't know. It's not great. So Evan Ingram is someone you worry about. Mike Gesicki is now expected to play, which is weird. We didn't think that he was going to be there earlier in the week. But again, this is a really tough matchup against the New England Patriots. I think in terms of adjusted schedule rank, they're the 3rd toughest matchup for tight ends. So Mike Gesicki is someone that, even though he's going to play, I don't think you have to play him. Myles Gaskin still on the COVID list. It seems like Salvon Ahmed is going to play, and DeAndre Washington. Those two should split snaps. I guess that I've been messing with that this morning. I have Ahmed higher in my rankings right now, but I don't feel confident about the entire situation. It's not a great matchup to attack. That should be a low-scoring game between New England and Miami. Chase Edmonds is a game-time decision, but they are expecting him to play, but maybe a lesser role. So he's not someone that you really want to rely on if you have to. Kenyon Drake gets a little bump in the rankings because of that. Matthew Stafford is someone that we did not expect to play earlier in the week, but now he's expected to go under center. I don't know what that means for your fantasy team. I really don't want to count on, especially in like a one quarterback format. I don't want you guys relying on a quarterback that could potentially, take a hit and miss the entire game. That's going to really crush your fantasy team, because the quarterback position, you just need someone that's going to give you at least a floor at that position. So Stafford is returning, but there's some risk there. Daniel Jones not expected to play. That wraps up the injuries, guys. I don't want to take up too much time with that. 5 minutes, as we just did. I'm going to get to as many questions as I can. So here's my advice to you guys. I'm going to run through as many questions as I can. I want you guys to narrow it down to 2 or 3 players. 2 or 3 players in your question. Otherwise, I'm going to have to skip over it because I want to get as many questions as I can today. It's obviously an important week, and I'm sorry if I don't get to your question, but I'm going to try and get to as many as I can. Do me a favor. Click the like button if you guys have had a blast this year. I know I have. I know we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys, so thank you guys for showing up, as you always do. And again, I'm also going to throw out there's going to be situations where I say, if you want upside of this, because now that there's been 3 games in the bag, I think it's more important than ever. You have an idea of where you're sitting on the week, where if you went against Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Aaron Jones, and you're a big underdog, let's say you're projected to lose by 20 points, that's something where you're probably going to have to take upside into consideration. So if there's a players that I feel like you can go either way, I'll mention which one I feel without seeing your matchup. So I'll just kind of tell you what I feel and kind of go from there. So hopefully it helps you guys out. Let's start here. Tyson, Jarvis Landry or Kareem Hunt? I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. A lot of people, this is something I do want to bring up because a lot of people this week seemingly have asked me about Rashard Higgins because James Bradbury's out. How does that affect Rashard Higgins' matchup? Yes, it's an upgrade for him, but James Bradbury was never going to shadow Rashard Higgins. So Higgins, he wasn't someone I was factoring in shadow coverage too or anything like that. This is more about game script, right? I do not believe the Browns are going to throw the ball a whole lot in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Baker Mayfield walks away from this game with 23 to 26 pass attempts, and that's really going to limit the ceiling for these players. So Jarvis Landry, while he's been good, while he's been getting a good target share, the matchup is solid. I would rather go with Hunt here. I just don't think that they're going to be able to slow down that run game. So Kareem Hunt is someone that I anticipate getting 15 plus touches in this game. I would start him as an RB2 this week and over Landry. Mike asks, good morning, Tags. Pick 2, Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones, or Landry at a PPR format. So I am going to go with Brandon Cooks. Cooks, I know the last time they played against the Colts, it wasn't a massive game for him. It wasn't a terrible game. It wasn't massive. He did have to leave for a little bit with that head injury. I'm going to play him, though. I mean, Kiki QT, I don't know what happened last week, but basically he was uninvolved in the offense over the second half. It was really odd. I don't know what happened there. But between him and Chad Hansen, it's like those guys aren't guaranteed targets. The Colts have been really, really good against running backs. The Colts have been really, really good against tight ends. So you want to look for the production at the wide receiver spot, which is where Deshaun Watson disperses all his targets. So I'm expecting Cooks to see 8 targets in that game. I think you got to play him. Marvin Jones is someone I moved up, obviously, with Matthew Stafford becoming available, because the Tennessee Titans do allow a ton of completions to wide receivers. But when you break it down on like a per target standpoint versus the competition they've actually played, the Titans are not as good as of a matchup as people think. It's more volume based, and a lot of teams have kind of racked up volume against them, and that's fine, especially for someone like Marvin Jones. But the question is, are there shots down the field? Do Matt Stafford's ribs factor into his projection, and that he might have to rack up a bunch of those short receptions in order to get there? That's the question. We don't know. I think we do anticipate the Titans to basically, rack up some points with Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill, whatever the case may be. Their opponents have averaged 68.2 plays per game, the Titans opponents, so we should see a lot of plays in the Lions side of the game. It's just I know there's risk involved with Marvin Jones this week. Him or Jarvis Landry, I think this is one of those things where it depends on your matchup, okay? If you're looking for a stable floor, I think I'd probably go with Landry over Marvin Jones. If you're looking for the ceiling, like you're an underdog and you're going to need a ceiling, I think Marvin Jones is the guy that has more touchdown upside. I think he has more target upside, and I guess I'd go Marvin Jones over Landry in that standpoint. James asks, need help. Full PPR, pick 1. McKissick, Lynn Bowden. I think we have to go McKissick, because Bowden, the reason that we liked him a little bit was because there were so many bodies out for Miami, seemingly. But now Devontae Parker's going to play. Mike Gesicki's going to play. It's not as guaranteed. McKissick did take a dip in my rankings once we found out that Dwayne Haskins was going to be starting, because he doesn't check down nearly as much as Alex Smith does. But I still think I'd go McKissick there. It just seems like the matchup favors his role in that offense. And then Let's see. Adam Bryant asked, Ayuk, Jefferson, Mostert, pick one in the standard. It's, wow. How do you pass Justin Jefferson? But against the Bears, I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk here, I think. Jefferson's really difficult to bench, especially knowing the last time they played the Bears, he did go over 100 yards. He didn't score the touchdowns in that game. It was Adam Thielen scoring 2 of them. But again, against the Bears, it is a tougher matchup, and I don't necessarily want to bank on that first time happening again, where it's like the Bears know who you are, they know what you want to do. I like Jefferson, but I don't think I could sit Brandon Ayuk this week. I have him as my number 10 wide receiver. I don't think there's a scenario where I'm going to say to bench Brandon Ayuk today against that Cowboys defense. I mentioned this in the podcast if you guys didn't hear it. The Cowboys secondary has allowed 2.06 PPR points per target to wide receivers this year. By comparison, I always want to give you guys a comparison because you might hear that number and think, well, what does that really mean? Calvin Ridley is averaging 2.05 PPR points per target. So basically, wide receiver targets against the Cowboys are basically worth Calvin Ridley type efficiency. So that's obviously really good. And Brandon Ayuk, in games without Deebo Samuel, he's kind of racked up the targets and he's been fantastic. So there's really no reason to avoid Ayuk in this game. Roberto, standard league, I'm definitely behind. I need wide receiver and flex between Jefferson, Thielen. All right, guys, we got to narrow these questions down. I'm so sorry, but I have to skip over them if there's more than 3 players. Casey asked, pick 2, A.J. Brown, Ridley, or Carson. Wow. Yeah, you're going to bench Carson, I think, in that situation because A.J. Brown and Ridley, I don't think you could bench those guys. The matchup for Tennessee against Detroit, you can kind of do whatever you want. And Detroit is down 3 of their top 5 cornerbacks in that game. Obviously not ideal for them to stop A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, whatever. Calvin Ridley with Julio Jones out, he's locked into 8+ targets. The Falcons are not going to be able to run the ball at all on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would anticipate 40+ pass attempts from Matt Ryan. So even if you just get a 20% target share for Calvin Ridley, you're talking about 8 targets. So Calvin Ridley should rack up the targets in that game. Love him as a top 6 wide receiver, maybe top 5. Carson has been sharing that workload a little bit. The matchup against Washington is not great. So I'll play the wide receivers there. Paradox, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jeff Wilson, Fournette. Okay, there's too many players there. Guys, remember, I'm telling you right now, narrow it down to 2 or 3 players because I'm trying to get to as many people as I can. Let's see. Daniel asked, hey tags, Deontay Johnson, Jeff Wilson, or Lynn Bowden in full PPR from Germany. Well, hi. I have Deontay Johnson in a full PPR. So when you start thinking about everything that's going on, the Steelers rely too much on Deontay Johnson for him to simply fade away. With all the drops that he's had this year, I understand that Mike Tomlin said we're going to punish guys for dropping balls. I get that. But he plays a different role than any other wide receiver on that team, and they need him more than anything because they don't have a run game. They are not generating any push up front. That Steelers offensive line, the running backs are averaging fewer yards before contact than any other team in the league. That's why they're throwing the ball as much as they are. That's why you see this team dropping back to throw the ball 70% of the time in some games. They're just not able to get many things going. So Deontay Johnson's playing that short area role. That's why his average depth of target is so low. That's why you see him rack up those targets. You see him rack up the receptions. And I know that, again, he was benched last week for a quarter because they need him in the lineup. That role is so important. Chase Claypool can't play that role. James Washington doesn't play that role. Juju Smith-Schuster's in the slot. They need him. I think you play him. Jeff Wilson's a fine play, but there is some risk involved with Kyle Shanahan's backfield. You never know what's going to happen. And again, we've already talked about Lynn Bowden and the fact that, the Dolphins do have more pass catchers than we thought were going to be available for this game. So I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. All right, John asks, hey, Tags, appreciate this every week. Appreciate you, buddy. I finished top of my league in each of the last 2 years because of FantasyPros. 6-point passing touchdown, Hurts or Baker. Can you talk me through it? I'm hesitant on Hurts. I wouldn't be hesitant on Hurts. The reason I say that is because he's going to give you a rock-solid floor. You don't really have to worry about the floor with Hurts because, in his first NFL start, he ran the ball 18 times for 106 yards. I can't explain how awesome that is for a quarterback, a streaming quarterback at that. Baker Mayfield may not get 18 pass attempts in this game. He probably will. I would, if I had to put a number on it, I would set the over/under Baker Mayfield pass attempts at 25.5. I think that would be the good number for Baker this week because, again, they should not have to throw the ball a whole lot, and that's what you worry about with Baker. You look for matchups where they're not going to be able to run the ball or they're going to be involved in a shootout against a team that's going to put points on the board. I do not think that the Giants are going to put points on the board with Colt McCoy against that Browns defense. I know the Browns defense is not good, but it's still Colt McCoy. And then you look at, going back to Jalen Hurts, running 18 times for 106 yards against the Saints, a team that coming into that game, they had allowed the fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks on the year. I think it was like 58 yards all season that they had to rushing quarterbacks on the year. So to see that happen, and then you go into a matchup against Arizona, who I think have allowed the 5th most rushing yards per game to quarterbacks, I do like Jalen Hurts. I think the floor is there, and if he takes a slight step forward as a passer, you have yourself a top 6 ceiling in that matchup. All right, let's see here. Blake asks, standard, need the upside play. Please choose one. Gus Edwards, Leonard Fournette, Sony Michel. I think Michel and Fournette are very similar plays. But again, that's the Patriots backfield that do you really want to trust? You know, he's going to lose goal line opportunities to Cam Newton. That's a realistic possibility, and that's why I have Fournette over Sony Michel. And then Gus Edwards, obviously, he's a guy that, I mean, I understand why people want to like Gus Edwards. He's good. He is really good. In terms of like creating and fantasy points over expected what they were supposed to have, he's one of the better running backs in the league. However, he still hasn't, I don't think he's top 7 carries in the last 3 games. That's worrisome, right? Like, that's the part you have to worry about. So it's basically touchdown or bust with him. And so if he gets, let's call it 8 carries for 40-some yards and a touchdown, that's not winning you your week. That's not going to be upside. So I'm probably going to take my chances with Leonard Fournette in that situation. All right, let's see. Brandon asked, half PPR need upside. Pick one, Fournette, McKissick, or Zeke. Whew. I don't like any of them for upside. I really don't. I had McKissick highest before we found out that Dwayne Haskins was starting. So I've moved him down. He's down at my RB 29 now in half PPR formats. Fournette's at 27. Zeke's at 23. I mean, we heard things about Zeke before, to be fair. We heard things about him that he wasn't going to be like, he was 100%. He was dealing with a hamstring injury or whatever. And then he came out and he looked pretty good in the game that they played. San Francisco has struggled a bit as of late against running backs, but I still think that they're above average run unit. I'm going to go with Zeke. Like, I know I'm talking myself through this discussion, but Zeke's involved in the pass game more than Fournette's going to be. He's got a better matchup because, again, Atlanta has been extremely good against the run, and then I'm worried about McKissick through the air. So I'll go with Zeke there. Let's see. James asks, standard scoring, Superflex, Dwayne Haskins, Taysom Hill, or Kenyon Drake. Yes, I'm serious. LOL. I'm probably going to, it is pretty funny. In standard scoring, I'd probably go with Haskins, to be honest. If it was PPR, I'd go Drake, but I'll go Haskins in the standard scoring format because, again, Drake, he should be involved more, and I want to say that, but it's still a tough matchup against Philadelphia. I don't think you're guaranteed more than like 12 standard fantasy points out of him. So Dwayne Haskins, I think, if it was a PPR, I'd probably go Drake, but being at standard, I'll go with Haskins. Let's see. Chris, good morning. Tags, good morning. Standard League, Jeff Wilson, Sony Michel, or James Conner. Thank you. Yeah, this one's really tough. I have James Conner at 26. I have Jeff Wilson at 28. And Sony Michel at 30. So, I mean, I'm kind of torn between these guys, to be honest with you. I guess it would be James Conner. The matchup against the Bengals is a good one. They've been dealing with some injuries. Geno Atkins just went on IR. If there is a game for James Conner to kind of pop back up on the fantasy radar, I guess it's this one. Jeff Wilson has such a good matchup, but again, it's really difficult for us to trust a number 2 running back in that Kyle Shanahan offense. It's very possible that all of a sudden Tevin Coleman has a game this week. It just, that's the way things go, and I want to eliminate as much uncertainty as possible. I guess I would go with Conner there, but it's close. That one's tough. And honestly, I really wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go with any of them, like over the others. Let's see. Roberto, Standard League, Jefferson, or Thielen. Happy holidays, by the way. Happy holidays. I think I'll go with Jefferson over Thielen. I kind of went through the stats this week, and I was looking at Thielen in his career versus the Bears, and it hasn't been good. I don't think that he's topped like 60 yards in any game, if I'm not mistaken. And he's played them quite a bit, obviously being in that division. So, Justin Jefferson's played them one time, and he went over 100 yards in that game. Jefferson is slowly becoming the wide receiver one there. Thielen's the one they go to in the red zone, and he could have bigger games because he's the red zone threat. Like, he's getting most of those red zone targets, but I think Jefferson offers a higher floor in a standard format. Nikos, good morning, Tags, good morning. Jeff Wilson or Michael Pittman in the flex, half PPR. That's one where I would go Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson, there's some risk there, sure, but they should be running the ball. I would assume the running backs rack up let's call it 25 plus carries in that game. So even if Mostert gets 15, Wilson gets 10 against that team, he's going to be fine as an RB3, whereas Pittman has kind of fallen behind, right? Like we've seen a whole lot of T.Y. Hilton as of late. The run game should get going against Houston. Pittman can have a big game, but it's more random than anything. So I would play Jeff Wilson there. Get the floor. Let's see. Warren asks, Goddard or Thomas? This one's so close. I don't like Logan Thomas with Dwayne Haskins. Again, almost everybody in that pass attack gets downgraded. Terry McLaurin, not so much. I think Terry McLaurin is the guy that is not affected too much. I don't even like Dallas Goedert so much this week, but I'd play him over Logan Thomas. Let's see. NDM, pick one, half PPR, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jeff Wilson. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week against New Orleans, but I'm still going to play him over Jeff Wilson. He should have a role in the run game. New Orleans has a lot to worry about in that secondary with Tyreek Hill kind of running rampant, getting all the targets he's getting. They have to figure out a way to try and slow him down, which could free up some things for Clyde Edwards-Helaire underneath. Again, I don't expect too much out of him this week. I have him as a high-end RB3, but I think that you have to go with his guaranteed touches over Jeff Wilson's. Brian asked, Russell Gage, Lynn Bowden, or Kiki QT in the flex of a half PPR. Oh, man, this is tough. I think I have to go with Russell Gage here, knowing that Julio Jones is out. I don't think many people realize just how many targets Russell Gage has on the season. I was looking at this when I was writing the primer this week, and I'm going to pull it up right now just so I can see where it's at, but I want to say that he's like a top 30 targeted wide receiver this year, and nobody really realizes it. Let's see. Russell Gage, he's at 32 right now, and that may have had something to do with the Saturday games. But yeah, his 84 targets ranked 32nd in the NFL. He has more targets than DJ Chark. He has more targets than Brandon Ayuk, AJ Brown. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, these are wide receivers that we play all the time. The matchup against the Bucs, it is a matchup that you typically want to target in the slot. Sean Murphy-Bunting has not been a very good cornerback, and that's kind of where I think they should attack. Kind of use Russell Gage as their short pass attack, or their run game in a way, to kind of move the chains. So Russell Gage is probably the one that I would go with. QT has done really, really well against Indy over the course of his career, but he's also been inconsistent. And I don't want to bank on, just the historical stats against that team. I think Russell Gage is probably the one I would go with. All right, let's see. All right. Elevate, PPR, Jarvis Landry, Kiki QT, Emmanuel Sanders. I think I'd go at Landry there. It's just the safest play. I mean, a lot of people have asked me about Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm going to talk about this just for a second. A lot of people are talking about what Emmanuel Sanders has done this year with Michael Thomas out of the lineup. What I want you to do is I want you to go back and look at the games that he's played with Michael Thomas out of the lineup, the opponents that he had during that time. Those opponents were really good, or like bad, depending on which way you look at it. They were really good for Emmanuel Sanders. They were great matchups. So you can't just look at those matchups and say, oh, that's what you should expect. The Chiefs have been the best team against wide receivers in the NFL since the start of 2019. They've allowed the fewest yards per game to wide receivers then. They allowed the fewest yards to wide receivers per game this year. It's so many people. It's a narrative out there that people want to continue to attach themselves to, where they say, you just want to play a wide receiver because the Chiefs are going to score points and there's going to be garbage time and this and that. Kill that narrative because it doesn't work. Because why are wide receivers averaging the fewest yards per game against the Chiefs? The narrative is it's garbage. It's a garbage narrative. And Emmanuel Sanders is not winning like over the top in one-on-one coverage. He's not. It's not like he's someone that you feel the need to must play. I've moved him up for sure with Michael Thomas out of the lineup because his target floor is going to increase. We don't know how Drew Brees is going to look. We don't know how the first time he takes a hit. We don't know what that's going to look like. Again, that matchup against the Chiefs has not been a good one for wide receivers. It's not to say that Emmanuel Sanders can't do well. I just don't think the floor is anywhere near what people are talking about. It is a tough matchup. He has to overcome that. QT, we've already talked about. And again, Jarvis Landry, even if Baker throws the ball, let's say 25, 26 times, I would anticipate Landry catching 5 passes, maybe 6, giving you a solid floor in PPR formats. I don't think he has the biggest ceiling of those, but I think that he's someone that he's the one I would play. Jonathan asked Shepard, Watkins, or Pittman Jr. in a PPR format. Oh man, I if Daniel Jones was under center and healthy, I'd probably say Shepard. But at this point, I mean, I don't know what the floor is with Sterling Shepard. I really don't. I mean, the time that Colt McCoy played, he saw 6 targets, but he caught 1 pass for I think 22 yards. Michael Pittman, on the other hand, that matchup is so damn good. Is it possible that Michael Pittman is kind of like the T.Y. Hilton of the Colts this week? Absolutely. It's definitely possible. So there's upside there. Sammy Watkins has been a disappointment. He's had the targets. He's had the snap shares. He's had everything you want. He's just not producing to the level we would want. So I'm going to go with Michael Pittman here and play the upside. I know he's got some risk, but I'll take the upside. David asks, standard need 2 of these 3, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, or Raheem Mostert. Remove the uncertainty with Mostert. I'd play Miles Sanders and Kareem Hunt. Hector, Jared Cook or Mike Gesicki. I'd play Jared Cook. So, when we talked, I said kill that narrative about wide receivers against the Kansas City Chiefs and that whole thing. Tight ends actually do play pretty well against them. They generally see more targets. And Tyrann Mathieu is a guy that's struggled a little bit as of late. I know he's been dealing with some injuries, but they have allowed some productions to tight ends as of late. So I think Jared Cook I would play over Mike Gesicki, who has a brutal matchup against the Patriots. Anthony asks, PPR flex, Brandon Cooks or David Johnson. DeForest Buckner is out. That's a good point out, that DeForest Buckner's out. That's obviously a huge piece up the middle. I know he affects the run defense. He affects the pass. In a PPR format, I think I'll go with the guaranteed touches because, again, Brandon Cooks is a guy that there is some risk associated with him because of the hits that he's taking. And basically when he's just the guy, when they took that hit against the Colts the last time they played, I thought he was done. I thought the year was done. I thought potentially his career was done. And he didn't play last week, so it's like concerning. And if he takes another hit, you have to worry about that. There is some risk associated there. I do like Cooks this week, don't get me wrong, but I think I'd probably go with the guaranteed touches of David Johnson. I don't expect him to rush for 100 yards or anything like that, but with Duke Johnson out, with CJ Prosise out, I expect David Johnson to have 18 plus touches, and I don't think that you can play Cooks over him. Ross asks, full PPR, Irv Smith or Goddard. This one I'm really torn on. I'll tell you what my heart wants to do. My heart wants to say Irv Smith. The downside is that even though Kyle Rudolph was out last week, we didn't see him lead the tight ends in targets. Tyler Conklin came in and saw 5 targets. Irv Smith saw 4. Now, Smith did produce, and he was actually the best performer. Whereas Goddard, we saw last week that with Jalen Hurts under center, it's a different offense, right? And now you're going into a matchup that's a lot tougher against Arizona. Arizona's been really, really good against tight ends this year. It's kind of a flip-flop from where they were last year. And I think there's still some of that playing in people's minds that they think Arizona's a good matchup for tight ends. They haven't been. My heart tells me to tell you, play Irv Smith. Kemoles, Gus Edwards or Gage, flex, full PPR. Being it's a full PPR, I got to go Russell Gage. If it was a standard, I'd think the other way, but I'll go Gage in a full PPR. He's going to rack up some receptions. Gus Edwards will not. I mean, if Gus Edwards catches a pass, it's a lot. Like one pass. Yallers asked, Sammy Watkins, Sterling Shepard, or Pittman. I think that I had this question already from someone else. It might have been you, but Pittman. Adam asked, Roethlisberger or Hurts in a standard format. This one's so tough for me. I'm going to pull up my rankings because I think I have Roethlisberger one spot higher. Yeah, I have Roethlisberger a spot higher. And it comes back to the idea that they just haven't been able to run the ball. So if you can't run the ball, you go through the air. And can the Bengals be beat through the air? Absolutely they can. Hurts probably has the higher floor, but I think Roethlisberger's ceiling is a little bit higher. Let's see here. Hey, tags, Hawkinson or Cooks in a PPR format. This would have been Cooks before Stafford was ruled to play. I'm struggling with this one, guys, and the reason I say that, Garrett, is because I don't know what's going to happen with Stafford. I don't know if he takes a hit and he's just like, he didn't practice all week. If he takes a hit to those ribs and all of a sudden he just can't throw the ball anymore and they go to Chase Daniel, I think that hurts Hawkinson. I don't know how much it hurts him, but it does. We have our concerns about Cooks. I still think I play Cooks here because you think about Hawkinson, you say, if Hawkinson were to go out there and catch 5 balls for, let's say, 58 yards, something like that, you'd be like, that's a good game for a tight end. I'll take it. Hopefully you get a shot at a touchdown. Whereas Brandon Cooks is a guy that's going to see 8 targets against a Colts team that is suddenly allowing the most yards per target to wide receivers. I think that's been lost somewhere along there. And I don't know let me see if he's actually, what's happened with Xavier Rhodes. Is he playing or not? I want to see that. It seems like he's going to play because he injured his knee last week, and we were wondering about that. But again, and they also DeForest Buckner, as was mentioned, it seems like he's been ruled out. So that's an upgrade for the entire pass attack. So I'll go with Cooks there. It's close, but I'll go with Cooks because I just want to eliminate that concern about Stafford. All right, let's see. All right, Corey asked, Guten Tag. I think that's how you'd say it in German. But what's going on, Corey? Full PPR, Godwin or Deontay Johnson or Hines. I need big upside. All right, well, Hines is not the guy that you're going to play for massive upside. I know it's a good matchup, but they're not giving him a whole bunch of touches. You need kind of big plays, which anybody can kind of rattle those off. So it'd be between Godwin and Deontay Johnson for me. And this is tough because both wide receivers have fantastic matchups, obviously. They are both big parts of their offense, but they also share targets with everybody else. Deontay Johnson's the one with the safer target floor, though, I think. He's a guy that I do... Again, if they're throwing the ball as much as I think that they're going to, I would say that Deontay Johnson should see 8+ targets in that game. Godwin, again, great matchup, especially in the slot. He's going to see Isaiah Oliver in the slot. That is a great matchup for Chris Godwin. But again, there's Mike Evans, there's Antonio Brown. I don't really know how to feel about that. Such a good matchup. But I will go with Deontay Johnson slightly in a PPR format just because I think that's where he's at. All right, let's see. So Yates is messaging saying that Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, and Jakeem Grant are all reportedly out. I don't know if that's the case, but if that's the case, then we move Lynn Bowden back up. Zeke is out. Wow. Guys, some breaking news coming in here. Hopefully Yates is not messing with me right now, but it seems like that's happening. Pulling up. Yes. The Cowboys won't have Ezekiel Elliott. He's inactive. A big surprise. Mike McCarthy said he expected him to play. That's from Ian Rappaport, so he is not playing. And again, the Dolphins seems like they will be without Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, and Jakeem Grant. So a lot of moves being made. I'm happy this information came out, so hopefully if any other questions pop up, I can give you guys some advice on them. All right, Brandon, 1 PPR, Scary Terry or Deontay Johnson. That's a really close territory for me. I'm going to pull it up and look at it just because I want to be sure that my rankings reflect that. I have Deontay Johnson at 16. I have Terry McLaurin at 17. So it's really close. I think it's more about worrying about the quarterback play. And again, I talked about this in the live stream last week, is that if you're ever torn between 2 wide receivers, 2 pass catchers, I should say, go to the team that you anticipate scoring more points or having the better quarterback. And I think in both scenarios, we can say that it's Deontay Johnson. The Steelers offense and Ben Roethlisberger, obviously better than the football team, and Dwayne Haskins. So I would lean towards Deontay Johnson. Nick asked, Tyler Lockett or Deontay Johnson? I'd play Deontay Johnson there. Tyler Lockett, we're at the stage now where he's more of like a wide receiver 3 that you're kind of hoping he has one of those big blow-up games, but Washington has been really, really good against wide receivers this year. Due to that pass rush, they're not getting open down the field. Jimmy Moreland has played really well in the slot for them. I just don't think that Tyler Lockett is a guy that is a must play anymore. I just think it's more like you want to play him because he's tied to Russell Wilson, right? And any week he could have that blow up performance. But if you take away the 2 games against Arizona and the 1 game against Dallas, I mean, Tyler Lockett has been like a wide receiver 4 or 5 in fantasy. So it's difficult to love him. Sonny asked, Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson? I'm going to go with Mostert, considering they removed him off the injury report and said he's good to go. I think you have to play Mostert there. Wilson is a guy that I do think that offers... I have him, I think, at RB30, so I still think that Jeff Wilson offers value in a guy that you could play, as an RB3 flex player. But I think Raheem Mostert is the guy I would stick with, considering he was removed from the injury report. Luke, pick 2. Wilson. Okay, there's too many players there. Arlett, full PPR, Irv Smith or Logan Thomas. I think I already answered that one already, saying my heart says Irv Smith. Let's see. Delta Blade asked Hurts or Big Ben. Answered that one already. And by the way, it was Roethlisberger that I have higher in my rankings. I think Hurts offers a higher floor, but Roethlisberger is the one I like because, again, the Steelers aren't running the ball. So if you're anticipating them scoring points against Cincinnati, which I think we all do, I think they have to go through Roethlisberger. Adam Kaiser asked Tyler Higbee, Logan Thomas, or Doyle in a half PPR. I think you have to go Logan Thomas there. I mean, Tyler Higbee sharing targets with Gerald Everett, and I don't think many people realize is that Gerald Everett's actually been the better fantasy tight end since the start of, I think, week 3 or week 4. So, and then Jack Doyle in a 3-way timeshare, with Mo Alley Cox and Trey Burton. It's just so ugly. So I guess I go with Logan Thomas and just take the floor there. Higbee's matchup is good, but I think it's just as likely that Gerald Everett has a big game as Higbee does, whereas Logan Thomas is the only option for Washington. Charles asked, Brandon Ayuk or James Robinson full PPR flex spot? Oof. I think we've reached the point where you can't bench James Robinson like ever, right? Charles, there has to be someone else that you could bench to get Ayuk in your lineup. Seriously, like you have to play him. Nestor asked, Goff or Rivers, Lockett or Kiki QT. I would play Jared Goff. This comes back to the idea of talking about, we anticipate the Rams scoring points in the Jets, right? I think they're 17.5 point favorites. They're a team that, they're going to put points on the board, and you have to say, okay, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of the Jets defense? The weaknesses are clear as day. That secondary is horrific. They're starting basically all backup cornerbacks in that secondary to try and hang with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and those tight ends. Whereas the run defense has been pretty solid this year. The Jets, if you look at like weighted opportunity against them and then points per weighted opportunity, they rank as a top 10 defense against running backs. So it's a little bit tougher there. And Sean McVay's a smart guy. I fully anticipate him taking advantage of this matchup and trying to get Jared Goff his confidence levels to rise as we approach the playoffs. So I think this is a spot for them to Jared Goff to kind of get right. I like him this week. And then as for Lockett or Kiki QC, I'll still play Lockett there. I mean, this is more to do with expectations, right? A lot of people have Lockett as like a wide receiver 2 or, a borderline wide receiver 1. I think we're past that time. But again, Kiki QT is he's a guy that's flirting with wide receiver 3 territory, Let's see here. Ethan, Logan Thomas or Cole Kmet or Jared Cook? I have Jared Cook the highest. Once we found out that Drew Brees was starting, Michael Thomas was out. These targets have to go somewhere from Brees, and the Kansas City Chiefs had struggled a little bit with tight ends, so I'm going to go with Jared Cook. Tanyan 25. Hey, Mike. Hey, full PPR, need one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McKissick, or Bowden? Full PPR. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire there, just because, again, you're dealing with the other guys, you're dealing with strictly pass catchers. These guys are not going to get any carries in the ground. It kind of lowers that floor a little bit. I've talked about McKissick and the fact that I've lowered him due to Dwayne Haskins being under center. Bowden does move back up a little bit. Bowden should have honestly, Bowden should have a lot of touches in this game because they are without the pass catchers. There's just so many missing bodies there that the passes have to go somewhere. So Bowden is someone that I'm liking a little bit. I'm not going to move him ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire though. Rock, happy holidays. Start 1, full PPR. Wilson, Bowden, Pollard need upside. I think you go Pollard. Now that Zeke's out, I think you go Pollard. I'm pretty much going to put Pollard where I had Zeke in the ranks, I'm pretty sure. I might put him actually higher because we knew Pollard was going to get some of those carries. Let me look and see. I'm going to tell you guys, I'll just do it right now, where I'm going to put Pollard in my rankings. Ezekiel Elliott is out, so Tony Pollard is going to go. I think I'm going to put Tony Pollard at RB. I'm going to put him in the range. I'm going to say the range of RB 18 to RB 20. That's probably where I'm going to lean. I'm going to mess with that. I'm going to look at it a little bit closer once I finish up this live stream. But that's around the range that I'm going to do. So if you're thinking about Tony Pollard or someone like Raheem Mostert, I think I might go Pollard just because you're getting the guaranteed touches with him. Again, he's someone that can be involved in the passing game. He can get it done in all 3 downs. He's fresh at this time of the year. Nyheim Hines, I guess I'd play Tony Pollard over Nyheim Hines right now. I think the conversation starts when you get to guys like Kenyon Drake and Wayne Gallman, because those are guys that are the 3-down backs for their teams. They may not be in the greatest matchups, but the touches are there. That's basically where I'm going to put Tony Pollard. All right, let's see here. Where am I at? I'm totally lost. Nick B, need upside in a PPR. Tyler Lockett or Hollywood Brown. My quarterback is Lamar, so Hollywood would be a stack. You rock. Thanks, man. I like Lamar Jackson. I do like Hollywood, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's a better play than Lockett, though. I can't do it because Hollywood. So here's the thing: the matchup's fantastic, right? The Jaguars are down their top 3 cornerbacks for this game. They're out. I think they're actually down 4 of their top 6 cornerbacks, if I'm not mistaken. But Hollywood has been out of practice all week because of the COVID, the close contact, and whatever. I know that they were planning to have him, so I'm guessing they're going to have a role for him. But this is a game where they shouldn't have to pass the ball a whole lot. I think the floor is there for Hollywood to be just low. Whereas Lockett, that's going to be a closely contested game. I'll go at Lockett. Yeah. But I think Lamar Jackson's going to carry you quite a bit. Mile High Breakers, full PPR, flex position, Sony Michel or Tony Pollard. This is Pollard now, in a full PPR especially. Tevin asks, Hurts or Goff? I have Goff higher. I do. I think Hurts probably presents a higher floor because if Goff has a bad day passing or whatever, but I can't see a quarterback having a bad day passing against the Jets. It just doesn't happen. Let's see. Ryan asks, you're awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. I got 2 for you. Full PPR, Hunt or Cooks in the flex. I'd play Hunt. Again, Hunt, I expect to have 15 touches in this game against the Giants. It should be the Browns should win that game pretty handily. And then Goddard or Ingram. I'm guessing that's Ingram, like Evan Ingram from the Giants versus Dallas Goedert. I'm really close on those guys. Ingram popping up with the calf injury made me worry about him a little bit. I'm looking at my rankings right now. I have Evan Ingram at tight end 10. I have Goddard at tight end 12. So Ingram's the play. I know he comes with some risk due to the calf injury, but the matchup against the Browns is definitely better than the matchup than Goddard has against the Cardinals. Let's see. Half PPR, Juju Smith-Schuster or Brandon Cooks. Started Devontae Adams. I need upside. I don't think you're at the point you should panic because you started Devontae Adams. I mean, I know it wasn't a great game, but what was it, like 13 PPR points or something like that? Juju or Brandon Cooks? Man, that's tough. I think I have Juju slightly higher. He's the one guy that you don't have any question marks about, right? You look at that Steelers team and you say, okay, Deontay Johnson's got the drop issues. I still think he's going to be fine. Chase Claypool has been seeing reduced snaps. James Washington is someone that's basically splitting that role with Chase Claypool. But Juju is like the consistent, right? He's the guy over the middle of the field that continually go to. I think he's the safer play, and I do have him higher. I have Juju at wide receiver 23. I have Cooks at 26. So, yeah, I would play Juju Smith-Schuster. All right, let's keep going. Thank you guys again. Seriously, I know we got another 20 minutes here, but thank you guys seriously for showing up every single week. I know it's been a weird year. It's been an odd year. There's been a lot of things that have happened, a lot of unforeseen circumstances, and thank you guys for sticking with us through them. And hopefully, you guys walk away with a win this week and maybe even this year. So make 2020 somewhat memorable. But thank you guys again. If you can click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because again, we're going to be delivering stuff over the off season through to you guys. We're trying to do more and more things to bring you video. So as long as you guys are here for it, as long as you're subscribed and all that stuff, we're going to do it. All right, let's go. Wait, let's see. Ingram inactive, FYI. Well, so is that Mark Ingram inactive? I'm guessing. Let's see. I'm trying to see what that is right there. Mark Ingram is a healthy scratch. Okay. So Mark Ingram, healthy scratch, makes sense. He had 1 touch last week, or 1 snap. That's all he played. So I was kind of not factoring him in to begin with. Please help Connor Pollard or Gus Edwards in half PPR. I would go with Tony Pollard with Zeke out right now. Because again, Gus, we've talked about that, and Mark Ingram being inactive, does it help us feel a little bit better? Yeah, a little bit. But does it mean that Gus Edwards is going to get 15 carries? It doesn't necessarily mean that. So I like him, just not as much as Pollard. Pollard's a guy that 15 plus touches guaranteed. Let's see. Chris asked Cam Akers or Robert Woods in a half PPR. Whew. Oh man, that's killing me. I love Robert Woods this week. Honestly, like, who do you have that you're not playing these guys? Like, I have Robert Woods up at my wide receiver 8 on the week, and I have Cam Akers, I think, as my RB 11 or 10. You got to play them both. I mean, seriously, I don't know how you don't play both of these guys. I really don't. I guess Akers, if you had to choose, because you're getting the guaranteed touches and you don't have to worry about anything. But I still like Robert Woods a lot. Cam Akers or David Montgomery in the flex. I'd go Cam Akers. David Montgomery the last couple weeks has earned the hearts of fantasy managers, and I get it. He's looked good, but we can't forget who the matchups have been against, though, right? Like, that's the thing. He has gone against legit back to back the 3 worst run defenses in the entire NFL. Seriously, the Packers, the Lions, and the Texans. They are the 3 worst run defenses in the NFL that can't stop anybody. And now he goes against Minnesota, who I know that they're a little bit shorthanded, but they've still been even if we call them an average run defense, they've been right around that territory in terms of points per weighted opportunity. So David Montgomery, I don't think he's a smash play this week. I think that he's a fine play. Like, you're not going to sit him or anything like that, but Cam Akers is the one I'd go with. Mike asked, Jalen Hurts or Jonnu Smith? There. All right, so hold on. Maybe you meant Hurst. or Jonnu Smith? I think that has to be what you're asking here. Just because obviously you would start Hurts if it was super flex. But I'm gonna think it's Jalen or Hayden Hurst. I have Hayden Hurst slightly higher because, you look at Jonnu Smith and he's a guy that basically doesn't catch more than 2 balls. He's a guy that we have to worry about getting targets in a general sense. We always have to worry about that. And then you add in the fact that Detroit, teams against Detroit are targeting their tight ends. I'm going to tell you real quick because I have my spreadsheet on it. Where's it at? Tight ends have been targeted just 16% of the time against the Lions, and that is the 3rd lowest mark in the NFL. So basically, teams haven't targeted their tight ends a whole lot, and then when you add in the concerns about Jonnu Smith, in general, it's kind of like touchdown or bust. Hayden Hurst, the matchup it's not bad against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but with Julio out, he's been, let's call it, less than stellar. Let's just say that. But either way, I think we have to go with Hayden Hurst in a matchup where we're expecting the Falcons to throw the ball a ton. All right. Let's see. Good morning, Tags. Good morning, Matt. Need 2 half PPR. Deontay Johnson, Emmanuel Sanders, Pollard. Deontay Johnson and Pollard for me, man. Best of luck. JPZ, PPR. Pick one. Wilson or Lamar. I'm playing Lamar Jackson. He's my number 1 quarterback this week. Playing him, no questions asked. Matt Froelich asked Pollard or Kareem Hunt in a half PPR. That's a good question. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. The matchup is just too good for me to pass up. Again, I'm expecting 15 touches out of Kareem Hunt in a matchup against the Giants. That it's a pretty plus matchup, I would say, for him. Pollard is someone that clearly benefits from this. He's got fresh legs, but he is going against San Francisco, a team that has allowed, what's the exact number? The 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs on the season, just 3.69 yards per carry. They have allowed 5.9 yards per target, which is it's a pretty healthy number. So hopefully Pollard can get usage in the passing game. But I do like Pollard quite a bit, and there's probably a way to play them both, to be honest with you, Matt. Half-point PPR, need 2 running backs, David Montgomery, Dobbins, Edwards. Dude, there is way too many running backs there. I got to kind of keep going through. And again, guys, if I do not get to your question, understand, I legitimately write a full paragraph. It's longer than a paragraph. It's a long explanation. I type too much. The primer. On FantasyPros.com, the primer has a paragraph on every player from every game. I promise you guys, I put everything I have into that, and hopefully you guys are able to check it out. If I don't get to your question, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. Let's see, Pollard or Carson in standard. I'd still play Carson. I believe, attached to the higher scoring offense, better chance. Pollard, this is not the Dallas Cowboys offensive line that Pollard would have had last year if Zeke would have gone down. I don't want to pretend that it's that. And again, San Francisco is a better than average run defense against that offensive line. So I'm not going to go crazy for Pollard, but I do like him a lot more, obviously, with Zeke out. The next question, Pollard or Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a half PPR. I would play Pollard there. Let's see. Matthias asked James White or Latavius Murray in a PPR. Man, James White has not been used at all. Oh, this is tough because Latavius Murray is barely used. I'll go Latavius Murray. I can't trust James White's role. I mean, with Damian Harris out, I think he has to be involved a little bit more. And the PPR does make me like him a little bit, but the role has just not been there. Let's see. With the news that broke, Tony Pollard, Lynn Bowden, or Russell Gage half PPR, I'd go Pollard. Milo asked, should I start Kiki QT or Darius Slayton? Please answer. Full PPR. I need a win. Please help me, Tags. Milo, I'm going to try and help you. I would play Kiki QT. I do not want to trust Darius Slayton with Colt McCoy. Slayton has been the type of guy where it's been a big player bust. And Colt McCoy is not a type of guy that's going to be throwing the ball down the field a whole lot. So I would go with Kiki QT and play it safe, especially in a PPR format. Gareth asked, start 2, McKissick, Pollard, Claypool, and a PPR. Pollard's definitely one. And as for the next one, Claypool or McKissick. Claypool has been, he's been declining in snaps, and apparently Mike Tomlin said he doesn't want him to hit a rookie wall. So James Washington has been playing good, and that's the part where it's I don't think this is going to last with Claypool, but at the same time, we have to say James Washington's been playing good, so I don't know why they would really change a whole lot. I guess you have to go with McKissick there in a PPR. I think it's just a little bit safer. I don't love McKissick this week. I really don't with Haskins under center, but I think I'd probably go him. If you're looking for upside, it'd be Claypool. Let's see. Lewis asked Claypool or Connor. This is another one of those ones where I'd say if you're looking for a floor, I think James Conner's the play. If you're looking for a ceiling, I think Claypool's probably the better play. Hugo asked Pollard or Swift PPR. I'd play DeAndre Swift there. Swift's matchup is good. Losing Frank Ragnow as center is definitely worrisome. But, if Matthew Stafford is, dealing with some injuries, Swift is the main pass catcher for that team. There could be a lot of dump-offs coming his way, and it is a good matchup. So I'll still stick with Swift there. It's close. Marcus asked Mostert or Marvin Jones in a half PPR. I'll go with Mostert. Being he was removed from the injury report, we have to take that for what it is and say, he's fine. He's going to play. Let's see. David asked, desperate at RB2, Fournette, Ahmed, or Bowden in half PPR. I would go with Fournette. Again, he's locked into 15-plus touches. I mean, good or bad, it is what it is. It's not a great matchup against Atlanta, but if they get him a couple passes in the passing game, that's where some production can be had. And let's not pretend like LaShawn McCoy is going to steal a whole bunch of work. Ahmed, we have no idea how they're going to handle his role between him and DeAndre Washington. I would imagine they're going to split touches. But Ahmed is the better one, but he's still coming off a multi-week injury. Bowden comes with a decent floor. But again, he is still like a wide receiver, like a slot receiver, I guess that we can call him. They should probably give him a few carries, but we'll see how that works out. But I guess I'll go Fournette and hope for the best. Let's see. I saw a question that popped up and it just went away. I think it was Kyler versus Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to go with Kyler. Kyler's looked good. He actually ran the ball last week more than he has in recent weeks, and I think he's over that shoulder injury. It appears his leg injury that he suffered during that game last week didn't affect him too much, so he's a guy that I feel I'm starting him confidently. Ryan Tannehill is a good floor play. I just wonder about the ceiling, right? Because you look at it, and Derrick Henry's going to run all over that Lions team, and it's a situation very, very, very similar to last week, right? Where Ryan Tannehill, he finished the game with a solid 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, but that's not going to win you a fantasy championship or a matchup. I'll go Kyler. Ethan, Pollard or Ahmed? I'd play Pollard. Icy Mike, T.Y. Hilton or Juju Smith-Schuster in a full PPR? I have T.Y. slightly higher. T.Y. he crushes that secondary, and without Bradley Roby, that team has been just murdered. Deontay Johnson or T.Y. Hilton in a half PPR? That one's close. That one's really close. I want to say Deontay. I'm looking at my rankings. Yeah, so I have Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 16. I have T.Y. At wide receiver 19. I mean, it's really close between those two. I just think Deontay is probably the safer option because the Colts, they're a run-first team. Let's be honest about that. What's up, Tags? What's up, Ricky? Mostert or Montgomery in a half PPR flex? I would play David Montgomery. Eliminate the concern, any concern about Mostert. Start Pollard if Zeke is out. Zeke is out, and yeah, I guess you start Pollard just depending on who it's over. Travis asked, start 2 in standard, Pollard, Mostert, or McLaurin. Start 2, it would be Pollard, and it would be McLaurin or Mostert in a standard format. In a standard, I think I go Mostert over McLaurin. I do that just because, again, he was removed from the injury report. I have my concerns about it, and there are question marks, but if they remove him from the injury report, what can we really expect? I mean, we have to go off that. We have to work it. Even if he was questionable, I would downgrade him a little bit. But with Dwayne Haskins under center, I just don't – you can't feel great about starting Terry McLaurin. Again, that Seattle defense has played much better as of late. I don't think they've allowed a top 30 wide receiver in each of the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. McLaurin obviously has struggled the last couple weeks. I just think it's wrong place, the wrong time. And I want to eliminate as much concern as possible and just give me the guy with guaranteed touches. And I think that's Mostert over McLaurin. Sean asked, help flex half PPR, Ebron or Sony Michel? I'd play Sony Michel. Again, give me those guaranteed touches. The Bengals matchup is really good for Eric Ebron, but I'm not going to start a tight end over a running back that's going to get 15-plus touches. Let's see. Hey, Tags, Bowden, Pittman, or QT at flex PPR? I'd probably go Bowden there. I think he offers you the safest floor in a PPR format. If you're looking for ceiling, I think it would be QT or Pittman. I think those guys would be a better play, but if you're looking for a floor, I think Bowden's the play. D.A. Smith, thank you, Mike. PPR, Bowden, Cooks, or Gage? I still go with Brandon Cooks there. I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. James Pollard. All right, there's too many people. James, too many players there. Jay asked, thanks for all your hard work, Tags. Thank you. Let's see. David Johnson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Pollard. I actually just moved Pollard ahead of both those guys with Zeke being rolled out. All right. Jay. All right. So Eric Swift or Gallman half PPR. I have Swift slightly higher. There's concerns about both these running backs. Gallman, not so much the playing, like in terms of his play, but the fact that Devonta Freeman, I think, is playing this game. They've given Alfred Moore some goal line touches. They gave Deion Lewis a goal line touch last week. That's what I'm worried about. DeAndre Swift, I think I play Swift. Hey, Tags, Russell Wilson or Jared Goff? Thank you and greetings from Germany. What's up? I think this is like the third Germany guy. I would play Russell Wilson still. I like Goff this week. I do, and I have him ranked, I think, as my 8th quarterback. But I don't think I could play him over Russell Wilson. It's a question that's worth considering. And if you're like, Tags, my heart is telling me to start Jared Goff, do it. I'm not going to blame you. I don't think the ceiling is very high for Russell Wilson this week. I'm looking at it. I have Wilson I have him at 7, and I have Jared Goff at 10. Oh, I thought I had Goff at 8, but I'm at 10. So I'd play Wilson. It's close though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't blame you if you wanted to go the other way. All right, let's see. Pete asks, Watson or Hurts? I have Deshaun Watson slightly higher because, again, that run game, not going to get a whole lot done against Indianapolis. They're going to throw the ball. We already saw this matchup a couple weeks ago. Deshaun Watson played perfectly fine. So I like Watson. 2 of these, Gallman, Deontay Johnson, Pollard. Have PPR, thanks, Tags. Thanks. Pollard and Gallman, I think, are the 2 I'm going to go with because, again, those guaranteed touches are too hard. I just can't pass them up. Peter asked Carson, Mike Evans, McLaurin, half PPR. Oof. Carson is, Mike Evans, the matchup against Atlanta is so damn good. And I feel like this could be one of those games where Mike Evans goes for 100 and a touchdown. But Carson can also do that. And it's almost like, I don't want to say more likely. I want to say it's more likely that Carson does not bust compared to Mike Evans or Terry McLaurin. And that's why I think I would go with Carson, just because he's a guy that's going to get 15 plus touches in that game. It's not a great matchup against Washington, but it's fine. And he does play for a good offense. So I'd probably go Carson, but Evans is close. Like I almost wanted to say Mike Evans. Devil Bat, good morning, Tags. Good morning. Full PPR, Mostert, McKissick, or Pollard. I would go with Pollard right now. Based on, Zeke being out, I think Pollard's the guy we have to go with. Brandon asks, Tags, Carson, Juju, or Akers in a full PPR. Love the show. Love you. I would go with Cam Akers in a full PPR, I believe. Just double checking, like thinking this through. Yes. I play Akers. We have to trust that over the last 10 quarters of play, Cam Akers has seen like 90% of the running back touches for the Rams. And based on what he did against New England last Thursday night, I don't know how you go away from him right now. He just looks fresh against teams that are kind of run down right now. So I'll say Akers. Please help Hawkinson or Andrews in a half PPR. I'd play Andrews. I like Hawkinson just fine, but Matthew Stafford, the question marks surrounding him forces me to downgrade Andrews or Hawkinson a little bit, and Mark Andrews, the matchup doesn't get much better than this. Let's see. All right. Matthew Hughes, half PPR flex, need upside. Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Swift, or Corey Davis. I think I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson if you're looking for upside. He's a guy that he set his career high the last time that they played against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he had, it was like 9 catches, like 120 some yards, something like that. Obviously, he's a guy that I do believe that he comes with the biggest ceiling if that's what you're looking for. DeAndre Swift is close, but he still has been in a timeshare, and that didn't change when they moved away from Matt Patricia. In fact, when DeAndre Swift came back last week, he shared a lot of the snaps, so it was kind of upsetting. Corey Davis, there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of production to be had, but I think that we have to put him kind of like at a limited upside because, they're just going to run the ball. Let's see, McKissick or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, full PPR. Cynthia, if we had Alex Smith under center, this would have been McKissick, but we don't, so I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Old man Dan, Hurts or Rivers? I have Hurts 13, I have Rivers 14, so I think they're both good plays. I think Hurts comes with the higher floor, and that's why I'd go with him. Let's see, Danny S. PPR flex, Jeff Wilson, Miles Sanders, or Dobbins need massive upside. Not just a little upside, but massive. Miles Sanders is the guy. I like Dobbins a lot this week. I really do. I feel like this could be like the breakout week for Dobbins. And I know he already kind of had one, and he looks fantastic, but this could be the week where he's like, okay, this is why they drafted this guy in the second round. but Miles Sanders is the one that I think you have to go for with upside, especially in a PPR format, because J.K. Dobbins is not involved in the passing game at all. He might catch a pass or two, maybe, whereas Miles Sanders is pretty heavily involved there, and including with Jalen Hurts under center last week. So, yeah, I'd go there. Let's see. All right. Matt Malo. All right, half PPR, Fournette or McKissick. I would play Leonard Fournette. It's not sexy, I get it, but I'd still play him because McKissick, again, I've talked about it so much today, saying that, with Dwayne Haskins under center, he has not checked down to J.D. McKissick nearly as much. We saw J.D. McKissick get a massive bump in production once Alex Smith took over. So I did downgrade him a little bit. He's still a fine play, but he's not a must play. But yeah, guys, the Yates is actually taking over right now for an hour on the YouTube channel. So if you look in the chat, our moderator there, he's going to go ahead and Chris is going to put the link in there for you guys to go join Yates. If I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But I am going to be here for you guys next week to wrap it up with fantasy championships. I wish you guys the best of luck. And again, if I didn't get your question and you still wanted my opinion, check out the primer on FantasyPros.com. It has a paragraph on every player from every game. But thank you guys again for showing up. You guys are awesome. You guys are rock stars. I appreciate it. And go talk to Yates. Go do that. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Until then, lights out.